what I'm going to talk about is revisiting the core of Agile and making better decisions with less effort. Decisions can be, you know, sometimes you pull out your hairs, and we'll talk about risk and what are techniques, approaches to reduce risk while working Agile. I think everyone who wanted to join the breakout room has joined it by now, so let's dive into this. We have Mentimeter, or at least I have Mentimeter as a platform for this presentation. This means you can go to menti.com and type in this code. I'll copy the link and also paste it in the chat. Let me see, where is the chat? Here is the Zoom chat. There we go. And if you open that on a mobile phone, you can use your mobile phone to ask me questions while we're going, and then I'm going to do my best to answer the most pressing questions while we're going. So even if it's an online web conference, we'll still try to keep it very interactive. There we go. So this is going to be the broad topics, a bit about me, a bit about Agile, what makes Agile different, and then a bit about decision-making, and then the meat of decision-making is going to be CBA, choosing by advantages. I'm going to show you some examples on how this could work. I'm going to use my holiday decision as an example. So there is not going to be construction decisions, but a holiday example is very accessible for everyone. Go through it step by step and then close off with some conclusions. So this is me. I recently finished a book, and sadly it's only in Dutch yet, but I'm working on the translation, and the book is about objectives and progress metrics. It's about a new approach to project management where you don't track progress by plan completion, but you track progress by actual outcome. And that is very important in Agile, because in Agile, plans become obsolete every week, so to say. So, and if you're using them to track progress, you're setting yourself up for problems. But that's my other passion, and otherwise I'm managing partner at Scrum Academy, doing a lot of transformation training and coaching myself. I've done a lot of innovation in my time, and I guess successfully so, mostly engineering, product innovation, online services, not so much in construction, so to say, but you could say I know a thing or two about teams and innovation. And so this is one slide about Scrum Academy. Yeah, I think if you know about Scrum, I don't know what the level is here of the audience, but basically in Scrum, you have important roles, Scrum Masters and product owners, and we train them to pick up their role effectively when an organization is going through an Agile transformation. And apart from these specific Scrum-related roles, we also work a lot with leadership and kickstarting teams, because we find that creating the environment and the context for working more Agile is very important to make it all work. Just in case you don't know, here I want to remind you that Agile is like the meat of what I'm going to talk about. It's like this philosophy where you have this customer focus, work in iteration, use facts to make decisions, and Scrum is just a subset of Agile with specific rules. I'm not going to talk so much about Scrum today, but just to remind you here. So far, no questions. a valid question from the audience is, by the way, can you go a bit faster, or can you slow down the pace? I'm open to that. You're even, or you can put stuff like that in the chat. Just let me know how you want it. It's your evening, I was going to say, but it's morning, I guess, for most of you. Okay, there we go. So no questions so far. Let's go to the subject of Agile. Here, let's make it a bit interactive before we talk about Agile. If you go, again, if you use your smartphone or your tablet, go to this link and use the code, you will be able to fill out a survey with 4 quick questions, which is a lot of fun because you'll be seeing statistics with everyone's responses. And I'm curious to hear from you what your normal business context is. Is it very predictable? Can you predict what customers will buy? Can you predict what they need? Are your projects very similar, or do they need new approaches? Is it possible to even analyze the problems you run into, or is it so complex that analysis doesn't work very well for you? We're ending up in the middle here. Nice. 5 responses so far. How many people do we have here in the main room?
32 in this room.
About 32. Okay. So let's go at least up until 10. We must at least make 10 people, no?
Yeah.
We're at 7 now.
So just click on the link that Anton put in the chat, and it's very easy. You just drag.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So what you can see from these answers is that if the top 2 questions, if they score low, if you cannot predict what your customers will buy, if these score low, Agile is very relevant for you, because that means you have to experiment and discover what customers will buy and discover what they will need. So if you're low on the top 2 questions, Agile is very interesting for you. And if you agree on the bottom 2 questions, Agile is also very interesting for you, because Agile is an approach for projects for generating value where you can invent your approach on the go. It gives you all the tools to invent your approach while you go. And that's very handy if every project needs a new approach. If you have a fixed approach that works wonders for you, by all means, use that approach, because it's going to be very efficient. Same is here is with analysis. Sometimes analysis of numbers doesn't give optimal results, and you have to collect more and more numbers. So this is actually where Agile shines. And I'm not saying that Agile is a panacea or a silver bullet. Just be careful when you apply it, because it's got a bit more overhead. It's not very efficient, but it's very, very effective. And here is where it's a bit of field where you can see where Agile is relevant, and it's dependent on your approach. Are you using a new approach? Is it unknown or is it known? And it's depending on the scope or the definition of value. Is it crystal clear what you're going to do with a known approach? By all means, stay away from Agile and use an obvious waterfall project-based approach. As soon as things become more complicated or even complex, it makes more sense to work in iterations, reflect more on what you do, and change your goals, update your approach while you're going. You will be able to create value more efficiently and faster as you go. And then there is the ultimate open-endedness, where the technology is unknown and you have these open-ended goals, where Agile actually breaks down again. And chaos is the area of crisis management, where there's been an earthquake or something, or even, you know, a refugee crisis, and you just have to start problem solving, and there is not much time to think. That's the area where there is chaos, and then the Agile mindset doesn't really apply. So let's do another statistic. When you know this, obvious, complicated, complex, chaos, how would you rate most of your projects?
Maybe Anton, just to add to this, while voting too, it's like, you know, the project could move from complex. It could be very complex at the beginning, and towards the end, it could move into complicated. So these are states, not destinations, I guess.
Yes, very true. Yeah. Especially if they're repeat projects. The first time you do it, it might be complex. And the second time you do a similar project, it might be more complicated because you just learned a lot, and you've developed good practices.
Yeah.
Great. So, okay, that means the right people are in the room with many complex projects. That's interesting. And what's also interesting is that nobody has any obvious repeated projects. So we're all in the market for some agile techniques and some agile mindset. Cool. Let's go to the next slide then. Yeah, I was going to draw this live on my iPad, but I was a bit late, so I'm just going to explain the story here. The thing is that there is this cloud up on the slide, which is the added value that you're working towards in a complex or complicated project. And the thing is, the clouds are a bit misty, but you know in which direction they are. And we're starting from the bottom, and the horizontal black lines are your level of uncertainty. And when you start a complex project, your level of uncertainty, the width of uncertainty, is quite broad. And the idea of working agile is that you try and bring something to the market, a little slice of end-to-end customer value, and this way you learn to develop your whole chain in the simplest way for the smallest, least demanding customer segment. So you create this small slice of value, that's the blue vector, the business value, and this way you develop knowledge value. Those are the green vectors. They are reducing your uncertainty. You are learning from the market. And if you take this approach, the first step will yield only very little business value, but a lot of knowledge value. And as you go on and on and on, the balance will change. You will accelerate on business value, and the need for extra knowledge value will be reducing all the time. You are having this, we're calling this the cone of uncertainty. And we're really trying to make this a cone. So to learn a lot, learn fast in the beginning, and develop business value as fast as possible, more towards the end of the project. And and this, you could see this also as a bit of a long, winding road towards added value and learning about value as we are building it. For this, it's very important that the blue vectors really deliver end-to-end value, something you can, sell or show to customers as soon as possible. Because if you don't do the whole chain, but if you do only part of the project, you're not learning enough and you're not learning from the market. So I have very little background in construction. I have more of background in web development, online services and things like that. And I think we can all relate to online services. So in my field of business, it doesn't make sense to develop a database first and a full backend first. And then when we have those, do some more architecture. And then only finally, you could, in the third step, develop a front end for the customer. That's not agile. So we're trying to develop the minimum viable app or screen or website with which a customer can interact with the smallest most lightweight possible backend behind it. And from that, we will learn about what the customer really values. We'll collect data about customer behavior, and this will allow us to build more of the value that we're discovering. So it's a very empirical approach as we go here. Okay, I'm seeing some chats. Yeah, so questions, you can send them in the chat, but I'm not watching the chat all the time. It's actually easier if you send questions through Mentimeter. So go through menti.com, use the code, and then in the app or in the website that you're opening, there is a special questions Q&A button there. I have a question. Can someone remove the, or where there is an eraser, yes, the red line. Okay, I removed it myself. Cool. Okay, there we go again. Now, not seeing any questions so far. Anyways, so basically the Agile mindset is about maximizing the value out of your budget. It's not about a fixed scope, but discovering what is value and investing into it and building it at the same time. And investments, maybe in construction, investment is about bricks and mortar, but work and a running team is a huge investment too. And don't underestimate that. I have many companies where they are having some internal teams and they're also having external teams, and only like the invoices of the external teams are investments for them. And that's like a very skewed way of looking at investment and looking at work. So everything is an investment, every piece of work, every wage you pay. Agile also means that you value empiricism, tangible facts, experiments over opinions. And opinions are great. They often lead to ideas, to nice discussions, but opinions should never be the only basis for decisions. You should always try and validate them. So in Agile, we try to remind ourselves that opinions are just opinions and they are not certainties in life. This helps you to have more fruitful discussions and bring way more nuance in your thinking. Then, if things are uncertain, this means you have to make smaller steps of value. It's like walking in the dark. If I'm in a room and I can't find the light button, I take very, very small steps in that room until I find the light button, because otherwise I might hit my shins against something. And it's just like that when doing complex projects, working Agile. Just take small steps, evaluate a lot, and make sure you don't bump into something very painfully. that's why also in Agile, we try to approach things in a very transparent way and multidisciplinary, because if you have a lot of smart guys in there, a lot of talented people, and you have a lot of facts that you show to them and make transparent, you will get a lot of very interesting perspective on the problems that you're solving. And through the quality of these perspectives, you will advance much faster in the end. So this is like the basis of the Agile mindset here. Let's see, still no questions. Aren't you finding the buttons for asking questions, or is something broken, or am I just very clear?
Only when you click on Mentimeter to the question thing does the question become available to us. Otherwise, we're following along your presentation.
Ah, so the only moment you're able to ask questions is right now?
Yep, right now.
Ah, okay. So that's a setting that I probably have to change.
One question by Shumel in the chat. How you offer to project on maximizing reliability and objectivity of knowledge and cognitive skills evaluation process.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
How you offer to protect on maximum reliability and objectivity of knowledge and cognitive skills evaluation process. I'm not sure, I don't understand the question, but
we offer to protect on maximum. Maybe could you rephrase that?
Shumel, or maybe just go off mute and
yeah. Does it mean, how do you maximize reliability and objectivity?
Yes, I hear. I mean, how you offer to protect on objectivity and reliability of knowledge and professional skills evaluation.
I think I have an idea what you mean. So in Agile, we believe in capable talent, in capable experts solving the problem together. And it's not like traditional management where you tell people what to do and tell people how to be objective. So in Agile, we leave this up to self-organization. So basically, you challenge the team to work more reliable if necessary and increase their objectivity if necessary, if it adds value to the end project. But ultimately, it's up to them to organize themselves in the context of a certain project to maximize their objectivity and maximize the application of their cognitive skills. In short, the answer is take it to the team and challenge the team. I hope that answered your question so far. Okay, right now you can see that the Q&A button, I enabled it on every slide. So that was my mistake. I should have set the setting differently. Right now you can ask questions all the time in Mentimeter. Okay. If this whole Agile thing idea, it has one big problem, is that it relies on small steps in the dark, and that makes it hard to make really big decisions like you have in construction, but also in software development. We have sometimes huge decisions. Do we go for a certain architecture? Do we buy a certain tool and go with a certain vendor lock-in that we see coming? Those are big decisions Do we buy a new financial system? Do we buy a new HR system? Those are huge decisions. And there is an agile approach. I think CBA is actually a bit older than agile, but I think it's very agile to deal with those large decisions and deal with it in small steps. And that's the second part of the presentation here. To introduce the idea here is we like to think in one-way doors and two-way doors. So some doors you can go through and you can come back, and it's okay, the door opens either way, but some doors are one-way doors. Once you go through them, it's very hard to go back. And there are in many airports, before the luggage control, there are these kind of one-way doors, but that's not why I have this picture. I have this picture because of the way Richard Branson started Virgin Atlantic. At the time, he was only selling records, and an airline company was a whole new adventure that he was getting into. And to start his airline, he needed planes, and the problem was if you buy a plane and then your airline company doesn't make profit, you're left with planes and a huge debt. So he negotiated with the airplane company that if he didn't make profit within the year, he could return the airplanes and get his money back. So this way, he mitigated the impact of the one-way door he was going through starting up his airline. So, and that's the big thing in Agile. We want to avoid one-way doors, and we want to, and if we can't avoid them, we want to at least mitigate the effect. And we don't only want to mitigate the effect before we go through the door, we want to build certainty, we want to build confidence that it's the right door to go through. And the system I'm going to talk about is a system to reduce confidence. The thing is, when you make a big decision, risk has got like two aspects. There is the impact of a wrong decision. So it could cost you a lot of money, the right side of the axis here, or it could cost you a little money. And then there is the probability of a bad impact. So if there's a high probability or a low probability. And the problem is, before many big decisions, you just don't know what the probability is. So there is a high probability that you're guessing the probability wrong, which makes it very hard to make these decisions. And the thing in working Agile then, and the thing you can reduce in small steps, is your confidence and also the certainty about the probability and the impact that your decision will have. So it's a more nuanced thinking about risk and decision making here. So we want to make decisions where we're sure we have high confidence of a positive impact. Okay, still no questions. Means I'm very clear. Let's see, I have about 10 minutes left. Time for another poll. Here, when building a bridge, you're all in construction. You should know this. What is most important?
Must be aesthetics, right? That's what people care about.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it from the from the poll statistics here. I made the Golden Gate Bridge. I added the picture of the Golden Gate Bridge to skew the opinions towards aesthetics. But still, okay. Okay, we have 3 replies. Aesthetics is steadily climbing. Okay. 7 replies. So safety. Safety comes up on top. Yeah, sounds horrible, right? A bridge that breaks and cars that fall into the water is like one of these disaster movies. And durability is probably important too. Total cost of ownership is what we're thinking about. But the problem is, this is like a false dichotomy, or dichotomy implies two choices. Pentachotomy means 5 choices. You can't choose the most important aspect for a bridge because with high safety comes high cost. So it's always a balancing act between safety, durability, capacity, cost, investment, and many cities don't even want ugly bridges. They want a landmark. They want to attract new entrepreneurs and tourists. So aesthetics are important too. And so this is a balancing act, and you can't make choices for a certain bridge only based on these criteria. The only thing you can do certainly is ask some 4 or 5 architects to design a bridge and then choose between options and choose between these options which options strike the right balance between all of these very important aspects of bridges. And that's what CBA is about. So choices are never a blank canvas. They're always about options, and they're always about relative merit between these options. So before actually being able to make a choice, you have to do an innovation, a design phase where you design the options. And it's always important to take the current situation as is, as business as usual, as one of the options. It's your baseline options. So let me see, I have about 5 or 7 minutes left. Is that right?
More like 5 minutes. Yeah, let's shoot for 5.
Yeah, let's quickly go through my holiday decision to show you how this system really works, where we look at advantages, we involve stakeholders, and we research when needed. So last year I had 2 options for holidays. It was either Northwest USA or the Swedish lakes. Those were my alternatives. And with the stakeholders, my family, we decided that for us, the number of unique natural wonders were important, attractive cities on the road, and swimming occasions for the kids. We're conscious of the environment here in the Netherlands, so our carbon footprint was important for us, and we like great food. So food was another important consideration. So the first thing we did was actually create a trip, create a route for ourselves, and around that route, count the amount of natural wonders. And then Northwest USA is great. However, the attractive cities are not so great. If we're driving from Amsterdam to the Swedish lakes, we have some very nice cities on the road like Malmö, Copenhagen, Billund, Hamburg, which added up much better here. Swimming occasions, the Swedish lakes scored higher. Carbon footprint, we can drive there by car from here, and actually doing the carbon footprint calculation, I would never have done it if I wouldn't have applied CBA there, and it really amazed me what the difference was. It's like about 20 times the carbon footprint if we're flying the whole family there versus driving the car. And find food occasions, restaurants were easier to find. So these are differences, and the curly lines here underline the worst alternative. And the next step in CBA is actually then looking at the differences and then finally weighing the difference. So the trick here is to weigh and this is very hard, and this takes a lot of stakeholder discussions, how valuable are natural wonders versus swimming occasions? So how many swimming occasions are we willing to give up to see more natural wonders? And it's the same discussion that you'll probably have on a bit more complex level with bridges. So how much aesthetics are we willing to give up to make the bridge easier to maintain? And here the weighing of the discussions are, they generate a lot of insights about what is really valuable for you, for the team. And ultimately, you can add up the scores. And usually after a lot of discussion and adding up the scores, the best alternatives here pops out. And here is a picture of us on the Swedish lakes. We actually had an amazing holiday with a lot of canoeing. The weather was brilliant, and so we've been swimming all the time. And I think we made a great holiday decision there. We were happy. We had happy stakeholders on the road there, and a happy ending there. So let me round this up. Choosing by advantages, this decision-making system for me is a very agile decision-making system, because the end goal is of key importance. What do we want to achieve with the holiday? And we are maximizing value. So value here is in the advantages, is in the differences of the choice. The system, if you do it well, it involves stakeholders. So you have them on board, you have them aligned, and this helps a lot later on in the execution phase for us driving through the holidays. And it's very empirical. Ultimately, it's based on facts, but not only the facts are important, but also the value and the meaning you give to the facts are very important. And that's what you capture in the discussions. So this concludes my presentation, right on time, on the minute, but it does mean that we have very little time for questions. So I hope that I've been able to, I'll share the presentation so you can get my reading material. I hope that I've been able to convince you that you can make big decisions in an agile way by gradually increasing your confidence here.